hey, this is a 34-pound box and it's hurting my back, so I'm going to put it down. But this is a brand new Bullet, and we were going to do, Ryan and I, Tom, we're going to do an unboxing video and sort of initial setup. So let's just start unboxing.
Okay. So the first thing to do is going to be to remove these straps. We don't have them taped down. When you receive your box, it is going to be taped down. It just prevents UPS drivers from kind of slinging the roaster around. It's also going to be marked fragile, so there shouldn't be any shipping damage. There is a dent or a little gash here or there. I wouldn't worry about it too much until you've opened the box.
Yes, so these come to us in a container, and they're really neatly palletized and wrapped, so they come very crisp. And our biggest issue has been with UPS handling, especially like Ryan's saying, is that there's no easy way to handle a box like this, so we were having people chuck it. So that's why we want to keep the straps on. But if your box doesn't look crisp like this, don't stress out. Even with some minor puncture wounds, it's double boxed, it's very secure, and we've had a lot of roasters that have, some exterior Mars that end up being pretty good. And
yes, and here we have your serial number. It's also on the machine itself, but it's a good thing to take note of. Peel the sticker off, write it down, stick it in a notebook with your roasting stuff, just so you don't lose it.
So there's been a lot of thought put into how to ship these very well. And some of the issues we've had in our previous shipments have been really like with heavy damage. We had a couple where the front screen was broken. So just make note of the fact that there's nothing, there's no holes that have gotten through the inner box. And just, take a look at the outer, especially the front control panel as you unbox it.
Right, so that's a glass piece.
So this is the list that comes with it, and we've been trying to make sure that there's better materials that come in the roaster. So we'll have a supplemental instruction with a lot of the information from this video on it. But this has all basically the parts you should be seeing. So we'll make sure as we unbox it that everything that's supposed to be there is there. So this is the main roaster, the Beast. And as it comes out of the box, this is what it's going to look like. Just make sure that you're not seeing anything grossly wrong here. So one of the biggest issues with the handling and delivery is that the drum is in the correct position. And this is really easy to see. You can look at the front bearing right here. It's like a little skateboard bearing or roller skate bearing. And just make sure it looks like it's not pushed in and concentric circles. If they're out of position, they're usually slightly recessed in this faceplate, and it will be a little bit out of position, not perfectly concentric circles. So let's just check this one out. But it's looking good already. We'll take off the tape. We can just open the drum drawer, and slowly I'm just going to turn the drum. Don't do this too fast or the belt will slip, but it won't hurt if it does slip. And that feels like it's moving. It has the resistance of the belt in the back and the motor, but it feels like it's moving just fine. And that is the fact that it's spring mounted in the rear of the machine. So you should be able to push this in. And the problem is if it's jarred during shipping real hard, it could push back on the spring and drop down. To repair that, all you would need to do is to reach in here, push back, and lift up. It just pops right back into place. That's the way it's supposed to work. So that's the main issue. The other thing is just make sure this is all intact and in good condition.
And if there's some weird noises the first time you roast, that's pretty normal. That doesn't mean there's a drum alignment issue.
Right.
Okay, great.
Sure.
So if you're ordering from us, you're going to be getting your roaster in one package. You'll also be getting a second package that's going to contain your green coffee sample set, as well as a replacement impeller, which we're going to cover in a separate video. For now, let's talk about all the pieces that are going to come in your main box.
Sure.
Okay. So we've got the bean chute, which is going to pop in over there.
And just take a note as you unpack, you kind of look at things, that this has a very kind of unusual design here. And there's one way that it goes in correctly, although it can turn and be out of position. And that way is with this in the back, and you'll see the notch. It fits right over the little bar in there. It'll make sense when you see it. And that blocks off the air transfer tube so that if you pour coffee in, no coffee goes into the air transfer tube. It'll make sense when you see it.
Don't want any coffee getting stuck in there. Okay, so then we've got this very fancy toolkit.
Yeah, it's cosmetic. Yeah.
And inside of there, you have a filter for your cooling box. Looks like 2 lights for your roaster, the USB cord, some screwdrivers in case you have anything to do with the bullet, and then you also have the handle for your drop chute and the screw and ball bearings for attaching that. The plug.
Yeah, the plug's really important, so keep track of this.
And a second, more heavily weighted handle. Oh, this is for the trier.
Your trier.
Okay.
Okay. And we have a supplemental little package which has your power cord. Very heavy duty.
Yes.
So let's go over a few of these things that are sort of key as you're unboxing and just making sure everything's right and everything's there. So as I said, the plug is what you're using whenever you're not putting coffee in. This is always covered to keep the heat in the roaster. Okay, your USB light is a little tiny handy thing here, and you have your USB on the bottom here just to shine right into the door. Super handy. It's really nice they give you 2, but you can only use 1 at a time. And just because it's not on the drawing that comes with the roaster, I want to show you something because it took me a while to figure it out. Your micro USB, which is for your computer connection, is right back here, okay? And it has a standard, I think this is a USB Type B, or Type A, I'm not sure, for your computer. So this is where your connection is for your computer. If you're challenged like me, you know where to find things. And I'd also just point out, while I'm at it, that they supply, they're really ramping up, kind of stepping up in terms of what they supply with the toolkit. All of this is new with this generation of roasters. Also, the USB cable, the quality of the USB cable matters a lot. I was having some roast data communication problems and failed roasts just because of the cable, so it's great they're supplying a really high quality cable. Obviously this is really beefy. Yeah, and let's talk a little about assembling your trier and assembling the weighted door handle as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the weighted door handle. It seems pretty straightforward. And you have this little baggie, and in it you have the pieces for the handle, but you also have these 2 round washers. Now these are actually shims for the drum, to change the position of the drum, move it forward or backwards. And it comes with 2 shims. One's a little thicker, one's a little thinner. You may never need these. I haven't had to use these. But if you do, put these aside and remember these are shims for the drum. And we have instructions online and a PDF file about how to do that. So the thing to notice about this, as well as the trier handle, is this little headless screw has one side that has a hex head or Allen wrench in it, and the other is just kind of a set screw, sort of grounds out. And you just want to make sure you're putting this in the way that you're getting the benefit of the fact that there's a hex head, so you can remove it if you need to. So what I do is I put it into the drum. with the hex head facing inward towards the drum. And that's so later on I can remove it from inside the door. And the big issue here is to not insert this too far into the drum once you've attached the handle, because you don't want this to go into the drum and be rubbing against the drum inside the roast chamber. So you just screw this in to the point where it's just a little bit, you can just feel it here. Put this little white plasticky washer on, and then you can just go ahead and just find the threads gently, don't cross thread it, and you don't really need any tools for that, and it just tightens really nicely. And if you need to, you could use the hex head wrench and remove it from this side. And if you wanted to, you could put a little Loctite on either of these sort of headless screws just to keep them in place. But
you can get Loctite at just Home Depot.
Right, Loctite. There's a couple different types that just you put on the threads of screws just to keep screws from moving around on you.
Okay, so you've got the wooden handle here, and then just similarly, same screw. One side has the hex head, one side is grounded. So you're going to want to make sure that the hex head is facing out, otherwise your screw is going to get stuck in your handle. Just go ahead and put that in, and that will ground out. Put that down.
So that screw does bottom out in the wood handle, so then you can go from there.
And so then I'm just going to screw the metal piece directly into the handle. Et voila.
Yeah, and then this handle has a little pin here, so you always want to, when you're roasting, you want this to be facing downward so it's not picking up coffee from the drum. And then when you're going to use it and take out coffee, it will be facing upwards. So when you start your roast, it faces down. So this is your cooling tray, and your fan is connected here. It's just like a computer cooling fan, which is great because it can be swapped out if there's ever any issue. You'll notice as it comes, so you have your stainless steel cooling tray, which works very well. Your pad will go, your filter pad will go in here. And one thing to note is that I struggle a lot with the top here popping out while I'm roasting and while I'm moving things around. So I actually like the tape on here. You don't really have to remove this tape right away, or you can find a sort of better solution than the tape. But for me, I prefer to keep it in. And then your fan can be plugged in all the time to your roaster. And the little port for that is here, and you'll notice the way that this matches up so you don't force this in, so that the pins, it has a 3-pin connection, it's just a power connection there. So you might want to also, while you're just checking out your model before powering it up, go ahead and you pull this to remove the cooling, the chaff storage, and access to the belts in the back. You might want to find some sort of like a big key ring to put on here. I think it's designed to have that. And yeah, just to get familiar with your roaster. This is your impeller fan, and we're going to be talking about switching out your impeller fan. You're going to get a spare impeller fan with your roaster. You can see the drive belt here for your drum and cooling fan down there. And this is your chaff collector. One thing you want to take note of when you get a new one is when you take this out, it needs to be put back in thoughtfully so that it's all the way in and the handle's all the way down, or else it could impact your impeller fan here. So just make sure that's correct. And the rubber part of this does not need to be removed, but it's a little tricky sometimes. So I tend to just keep my fingers on and hold this while I just carefully work this out. So that's your access to your chaff. If this does come off, you can work it back in. It just takes a little job. And this is sort of your quick release for your chaff too. If you want to not take off the back, etc., you can simply access the chaff and suck it out with a shop vac or something from back here. I would not do that during the middle of a roast because it's going to change the airflow of a roast. But between roasts, that's a great way to keep chaff clean. And I usually just hold it sort of generally in place, pull that, and it goes back in.